Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my next Sword Art Online Alternative Gale Online episode review. This one's going to be for episode 8, which is called Booby Trap. And while I like this episode, I think it's fair to say that there also isn't a lot to this one. They definitely, I think, extended out a lot of kind of scenes. We focused primarily on like action scenes, and then just I think used a lot of time just with the start of this Squad Jam 2, just cutting to the other teams with like reactions to a little bit of everything. And so it means that we didn't cover all that much, but the focus on like the tactics was still good. I just don't feel like ultimately there's too much to talk about in this episode, and that I don't think this will be a particularly long review. The episode very much was about Len and Fukaziro's first 2 engagements in the Squad Jam, and then setting up Pito Hui and M's, the PM4 teams, their first engagement, which is apparently going to be against 7 full teams, and Pito Hui is very confident that they're going to do this really well. This is finally something that's going to sate her desire for like a dangerous kind of fight that's coming up. So let's talk about Len and Fukaziro's first basically fights. I actually liked what they did here, in that Len, having won the first Squad Jam, you can see that now she is the leader. She's taking on that M role here of she now has to guide a kind of new Fukaziro through what's going on here, and she's doing it pretty well. She's doing all of the typical tactics, whereas Fukaziro is so used to like ALO, where she's used to flying everywhere. There's not as much of a focus on like military tactics, and she's more used to just, there's no need for stealth or anything like that, taking people by surprise. You just go into a fight and your skills will do it for you. And so you can see that Len has the sort of the military tactics down, she doesn't, and that's signified by, as they're going into their first engagement, she triggers a trap and kind of blows her legs off, loses about 1/4 of her health, and is sort of out of that full fight. But they get out of it because Len is so strong, she's able to take out a full team basically on her own. Fukaziro does fire a grenade right at the end to take out, I think this is the last guy. So kind of showing you that Fukaziro gets this rough start, but comes back immediately, in that she doesn't immediately panic, having, you know, lost her kind of legs in the game, because they do confirm almost immediately that they'll grow back in 2 minutes, in that like it's meant to be this thing where like it doesn't just affect you for the entire tournament, that you can actually come back from these sort of injuries, but they try to make it so that it is still accurate. So I quite like that, in that she was just lying on the ground, but because the guy kind of walked by the door where she was kind of hiding in, she did use her grenade launcher, so that was cool. And then just seeing Len incorporate just her speed, the use of Pichan, and then the knife, especially at the end in that kind of humorous scene, I thought was really well done. And I suppose it's there where you sort of see where they sort of filled out the time of the episode, cutting out to just people watching the tournament to just give you reactions, which are cool in that like they basically give you the same reaction that the audience is having, we're having watching the episode. It just, you know, if they took out a lot of those reaction shots and filled it in with another like action scene, that would have been fine as well. I suppose it just all kind of builds together to just feeling that, you know, there's only a couple of scenes to really talk about from this episode, in that this fight ultimately is taken out pretty quickly. Like it's only about 1 minute long probably, this fight, and the time is taken more up with just the reaction to Fukaziro's injury and kind of having her make her comeback in a way. But I love that when they encountered the second team, this is Fukaziro's chance to sort of redeem herself. In that she sort of messed up with the first one. You could tell she kind of went into it a bit too eager, not really thinking about the tactics all that much. But here she's like, no, I'm going to do this one. I'm going to take out the full team on my own. You won't even have to fire a shot, but I need your help on this one. And I thought this is where they used up most of the time of the episode of just kind of showing you this and then explaining how she's kind of doing this, of how she's using a fairly random weapon, the grenade launchers, and being so accurate with them. Because they set it up kind of quite well that they're kind of in the corner behind a like row of houses, and that's where she's firing from. But this team is on like the railway tracks, which is obviously in front of this row of houses. And how is she doing this where she can't directly see who she's firing at, and they kind of eventually confirm that Len is doing the spotting for her, that she's kind of radioing her exactly where they are, and they kind of establish that Fukaziro's been doing so much training with the grenade launcher, she has this feel for it in a way where once she gets like one shot which she knows going to miss, she can then alter from that point based on kind of a good spotting and good information which Len provides to, in the end, wipe out a full team using kind of her grenade launcher like a mortar, basically, firing it from a standard position and just adjusting the angles, which is really, really skillful. And this is where I think the reaction shots really worked at getting across just how impressive this actually is, because you kind of get the idea that, wow, she's using grenade launchers, like they're powerful, but it's not exactly what most players would go for in a game like this. And so it's sort of fitting that, you know, such a weird team like Len and her partner here would have such a unique style, in that it's something not a lot of people would think of doing something like this, just spotting for a grenade launcher focused character. And it's very fitting because they expect something special out of like Len's partner, given that she switched from M to like F this time out, and that's what they get, and suddenly everyone's impressed with both members of the team. So I thought that was a really good scene to just get across that like Fukuzero is going to be like very kind of important going forward, because she's so accurate with those grenade launchers. She's going to be a threat, more so than just what we've seen with people like you know, lobbing grenades all over the place. She has 2 grenade launchers, so even if they get into a more like open fight where they're spotted, she's going to have so much firepower that she's going to be able to keep a distance from people fighting Len. And I think once we get into that, we're really going to see her providing a lot of cover fire, and Len really charging towards someone as they have to kind of hold back from all these grenades. So tactics, I think, are working well with this team. And then we just kind of get little setups like, you know, the gymnastics club team are still in the fight. They, I think, take out one team quite quickly, but for the most part they're sort of stranded in an area where they're not around anyone, as they set up that one thing that is happening is that a bunch of the teams that are near Pitoi's location are forming together. They're forming this alliance that is very unexpected among the teams to go after her, because they established that basically on the map, Len and Fukuzero are up in the like top left corner, and then Pitoi's team is in the bottom right corner on top of this mountain, and they're just staying up there and not doing anything. And this is like M's tactic to get them a little further into the game, and to, I suppose, get Pitoi the kind of dramatic battle engagements that she wants. And we just cut in with her a couple of times being bored, and also establishing that M is actually the leader of their team. It's not Pitoi, and I think that's going to be used as a bit of a surprise later on, in that they obviously, the scan is determined by where the leader is positioned, and Len, I assume, is going to believe that Pitoi is the leader just by default, and so it might lead to some sort of a surprise where maybe she has to take out M before she ever even gets to Pitoi, which could be fun by the time we get there, but they're such on opposite sides of the map, and we haven't quite got to that moment yet. But yeah, just the end scene really just setting up that, okay, 7 full teams, basically 42 people, are coming after Pitoi and M's, and therefore kind of hired players' location. How are they going to get through this? But Pitoi is very, very confident that she's going to perform this massacre of all 7 teams. And they've yet to confirm like what weapons she's necessarily using. We know more or less what M is going to have. And then I'm very interested to see what they do with the 4 other guys. Will they just have them basically be like meat shields in a way for Pito Hui as she goes crazy and does some like hyper aggressive strategy, and those guys sacrifice themselves to allow her to do this strategy? And this is how they're going to wipe out most of the teams on the map. And I'm assuming by the time we get down to it, those 4 will be gone, and it will be Fukuzero and Len versus M and Pito Hui, and they'll do some sort of a 2-on-2 match. Because I think probably what they're leading towards is the Memento Mori's team will fight the Gymnastics Club, and that's going to be like the best of the named 6-man teams. But we'll see where they go, because they do confirm that the Machine Gunners are still in this. I don't know if they got taken out here just yet, but they're still in here, involved. 30 teams, and I think by the time we finish this, we know of at least I think 4 or 5 teams that have been taken out. 7 will probably be taken out in the next episode. But yeah, there's still time to go. Like, this was only episode 8. We've got at least 4 more to go. So that's going to be interesting to see if they leave if they end the action in maybe like episode 11 and leave 12 to sort of be a kind of aftermath thing, or they'll have 12 sort of be action for the first half and then kind of epilogue stuff afterwards. Because I'm very interested to see if they do the more personal stuff in the game or outside of the game, because I think we have to have an outside of the game scene, but I'm wondering, will they just keep the in-game stuff to like action, and then they'll have the proper like discussion of what's going on here, character reveals afterwards. But we still have a bit to go before we get there. But that was the core of this episode. As I said, I enjoyed it because we are a little bit more focused on like the tactics of what in the end is going to be somewhat minor engagements, in that these were just 2 random teams. Like, I don't think we even got the names of any of these teams. It was just that here are 2 teams for Len and Fukuzero to take out. One shows Len's strength as a character on her own. The other shows the skill that Fukuzero is going to bring to this team. What's going to be impressive is if they encounter a named team that seems to have any sort of kind of speciality to them. The only other thing going on is that there's this other team, which I think it's a team of 6, but it could be a team of 4. And it's got I think it's the girl with like green hair on it. I think it's a girl. They seem to almost be like beginning to introduce them as being a little bit of a notable team. They're kind of stuck somewhere in the middle of the map, like in or around where like Memento Mori's team is and the Gymnastics Club. So maybe those 3 teams will fight as like, obviously they're kind of stuck in the middle of the map, and then you've got Len like up here, Pito Hui down here, and maybe they'll converge in the middle or something like that. But yeah, I like where this is going. I just hope that they leave enough time and focus enough on the actual character stuff, the motivation stuff, and don't just have everything be about the action. I think the action is very good, and it's cool that we're allowed to focus on just the tactics of, not particularly important fights. But let's not forget that there's also this plot going on in the background of Len wanting to save Pito Hui, and there being a lot of personal stuff at stake here. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I want to say about this episode. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts were on episode 8 of Alternative Gun Gale Online. But yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.